This Monday.com ad was created by a team of people and AI agents. Reese, our content agent, wrote the copy based on our best practices, like mentioning Monday.com 3 times. That was the second. Johnny, our coordination agent, built the timeline and kept everyone aligned. Olivia, our human creative director, stayed in the loop. Because agents are great, but they don't always know when a joke lands. She had one note: tell listeners it only takes minutes to build an agent. So, minutes. Create your own AI agent today on Monday.com.
WeatherTech is made right here in America, and it's perfect for an American-made summer. Because we cannonball into summer, hike all over it, slide down it, camp in it. It's one ice cream-covered, sandy, soaking wet mess of a season. Which is why WeatherTech floor liners and seat protectors are a must. We are road-tripping, beach-going, lake-jumping Americans, and that's just how we summer. WeatherTech, made in America for an American-made summer. Visit WeatherTech.com today.
Hello again, you wild and beautiful souls. I'm switching it up a little bit today and bringing forward an episode from A Witchful Journey that touches on my personal experience with shadow people and the ever-feared Hat Man. I also had reached out to one of my sisters for her experience, which is captured here as well. Sharing former episodes isn't something that I'm going to make a habit of, but I'm hoping that after listening today, you'll send me your creepy shadow person or Hat Man experience. I'd like to be able to share your stories in October, during spooky season. So if you have a story for me, email it to me. thisaveragewitch@gmail.com. Make sure to put spooky season in the subject line and let me know whether or not I should include your name. And now, we're going to go back in time to early 2025.
So if you hung out with me in the last episode, you might remember me saying that I have a story for you about the Shadow Man. There are many different forms of these shadow people, beings, entities, whatever you want to call them, and we'll cover all of them. But I want to start with the Shadow Man because that's how I started digging into this in the first place. When I was seeing this figure, I didn't actually have a name for it. I barely told anyone about it until about a decade after I stopped seeing it. This figure just kind of became part of my nights. When I was about 13, I finally got my own room. Prior to that, I had been sharing a room with my 2 sisters. On the first night that I stayed in my new room, I turned off the light and got into bed. And once I was comfortable, I happened to look toward one of the corners of my room and saw a dark shape there. This shape was in the form of a tall human, and had enough detail to it that there appeared to be some kind of wide-brimmed hat on its head. I could make out the head, the hat, and the neck, and the shoulders, but everything below that appeared to go straight down, giving it the appearance of also wearing some kind of coat. I couldn't make out any facial features, and I couldn't see through it. It was just black, but not quite like a silhouette. When I think of silhouette, I think of crisp, definitive edges. This wasn't like that. The edges were slightly fuzzy. That's the best I can think of to describe it. The terror that I felt that night was so overwhelming that I didn't dare to move, aside from pulling my covers up over my head with just a little peephole for air, and so I could keep an eye on it. I stared at it until I was so tired that I fell asleep. One might think that I had dreamt the whole thing, or allowed my imagination to run wild, but I promise you, I was fully awake when I saw this thing. And while I was, and always have been, quite imaginative, I also looked for logical explanations. The next morning when I woke up, I looked at the same corner from the same spot on my bed, and I didn't see anything. I couldn't even see how anything would have cast a shadow that resembled anything akin to what I had seen the night before. But being the curious human that I've always been, I moved some things around anyway to see if that would make a difference. Not that there was much to move around at that point. My thought was that maybe ambient light from the other room was doing some weird things with the shadows. Maybe it had something to do with the street lamp, or how the light came into the room through the blinds. The terror that I had felt the night before was gone in the daylight, and I didn't think to mention it to anyone because I felt that I was of an age where I was too old to be afraid of the dark. And I knew I'd be told that my mind was trying to play tricks on me. The second night in my bedroom, I saw the figure again. Same spot. To sort of build you a picture, as soon as you walk into my room, there was a chimney to the right, on the wall, the same wall, a window in the opposite wall, and 2 windows in the wall to the left. The wall to the right was bare. Even though my room wasn't on the side of the house that got natural light from the sun or from the full moon, we lived on the main road, and I got plenty of momentary light from passing vehicles at night. When I first moved into my room, my mattress was on the floor, and the only other thing that I had in my room were my dresser, which was placed between the 2 windows on the left, a desk lamp on the floor by my mattress, a stereo, my backpack, and a 1,000-piece puzzle. It wasn't like my room was fully decked out yet. It wasn't long before the bed frame went into my room, which had the headboard centered against the bare wall to the right. After that came a desk that went into the far left corner, followed by bookcases and a closet being built in along the same wall as the bedroom door. I continued to see this figure every night, and after a while I began to mentally label it as the Shadow Man. Not every night was exactly the same. Most nights the Shadow Man stood in the corner of the room where my desk was, almost in the middle of the desk, as if the desk didn't even exist. Some nights the Shadow Man appeared to be closer, standing between the desk and the lone window to the right of my bed, just out of reach of any headlights of cars that drove by. But he never got too close. I could never make out any distinguishing features outside of the form of the hat on his head and the appearance of wearing a long coat. I got the sense that he was moving slightly, kind of like a human would when they're just standing there breathing, or like the edges of his shape were always shifting ever so slightly. But he never actually moved. I never spoke to him, which honestly was out of fear that I might get some kind of response. Every night I would just turn off the light, and I always turned off the pull string light on the ceiling before turning off the desk lamp that I kept on my bed. And I'd get under my covers. Some nights I would try to go to sleep without pulling the covers up over my head, but I always felt too exposed because even with my eyes closed, I knew the Shadow Man was more than likely standing in the corner watching me. So, more often than not, I'd pull the covers up over my head and leave a little hole that I could peer out of to watch him. That was all he did, though, was just stand there and watch. I could never get over the unsettling feeling that his presence would induce, though. But I will say that it ebbed from terror to something less distressing. Over time, I was just plain creeped out, and I would ultimately end up playing I don't see you, and you don't see me. Something interesting to note was that on the rare nights when a friend would sleep over, I didn't see him. Being a teenager, I stayed up until all hours of the night for various reasons. School projects, finishing a paper that was due the following day, staying on the phone late into the night. You get the idea. But despite how long I stayed up, the Shadow Man always appeared after the lights were out, unless there was someone else in the room. I stopped seeing the Shadow Man when I was about 18 and was allowed to move my boyfriend into the room with me. I've never seen it since. It was about a decade later when I began to actually share what I saw and what I called this thing. I mean, it's not like it's the kind of thing that you would expect anyone to believe if you told them. Or so I thought. To my surprise, I wasn't the only one that had experienced a strange presence. The following audio was sent to me by one of my sisters.
I'm Kelsey. I'm April's youngest sister. And I have been seeing shadow figures for as long as I can remember. The earliest ones that I can remember date back through like elementary school and middle school. And that would be the one that our sister, Eileen, has also bear witness to. And like at the same time as me as well. So that would be usually at night, either before bed or like in the middle of the night when we're already sleeping and we wake up and it's there. This shadow figure would be more so of like a mass. It wouldn't look like the silhouette of a person. It was more so like a mass that was like translucent. And even though it was translucent, like it still felt like it was taking up space. So in our bedroom, if you walk into the room, Eileen's bed would be the far right bed up against the wall on the right side. And then mine would be the far left bed up against the wall, like in the corner on the left. A lot of the times she would wake up in the middle of the night startled and would be like, Kelsey, do you see that? Are you seeing the same thing as I'm seeing? And she would always like point, and of course I'd be like, yes, I see it. Because like even though I was younger than her, or am younger than her, I was always trying to like keep her calm. So yes, it would startle me because I would know that she was scared, and I would be scared because I'm like, I don't know what it is too, but I'm seeing it. It's not like there was any distinct forms or shapes or anything like that it would morph into or that would come from it. It was always just a mass. And it would usually stand like in the corner of our bedroom door or like more towards like the ceiling in the corner by the bedroom door. And then sometimes it would also appear in our closet or like the doorway of our closet all the way to the right. I never really got any feelings from it. Like, I never felt like it was there to harm us. It almost was more so like observing or like just watching over us when we slept. There was a period of time where it felt like it was happening like every single night. And yeah, Eileen would always get scared when she would see it. And now granted, I never was able to actually like she never told me in detail what she saw, but she would always say like, do you see that black figure? Like, do you see the black mass that's in the corner? And like point towards it. Whenever we would bring it up to my dad, he would always say it's our imagination, that it stems from our anxiety, that we're like manifesting this thing from our anxiety because our minds are playing tricks on us because it's dark time, and like naturally at night or in the dark you get scared, so you start to see things. But it was never like that because in my opinion, if that's the case, how are we seeing the same thing? So sometimes it would be like as we're trying to go to bed, whether or not we have a light on, like a lamp or whatever on, we could still see it. Or it would be you wake up and your eyes adjust for a moment, like in the middle of the night, and it's there. It was always just in those two areas, though. It never felt like it was trying to come closer or anything like that. It was almost like it was not wanting to interact. Like it just wanted to check in on us and observe.
Of course, my sisters and I weren't even the only ones to see these things. As it turns out, many people all over the world have seen them, and apparently for a very long time. Though the descriptions do vary a bit from place to place, and so do the overall feelings that people have. From what I've gathered in general, the shadow being that appears in your bedroom at night either appears as a dark mass or takes the shape of a humanoid figure. Sometimes they're described as being solid, with features that flicker in and out of clarity. Other times, they're described as translucent. Some people see these beings on a regular basis, and others see them only once or twice. Some people only see them standing in the corner of the room, or in their doorway like some creep, while others say this being gets closer and stands right up next to them at their bedside as if to get right in their face. And in some cases, they may actually communicate. Some people have reported that the shadow person they saw actually reached out to attempt to strangle them or press on their chest to the point where they felt like they couldn't breathe. Sketchy. Less often, they're seen through the use of a mirror. And that just gave me the literal heebie-jeebies, not gonna lie. Some are described as simply dissipating, while others say they've witnessed this being walk or glide through a doorway or a window to leave. In my case, I always fell asleep before the Shadow Man disappeared. It seems that this being that I began to call the Shadow Man is typically referred to as the Hat Man, because of the peculiar and distinctive hat that seems to be worn by this being. And regardless of where in the world the Hat Man is seen, the description is generally the same. Wears a hat, looks like he's wearing a long overcoat or a trench coat, or in some cases just some vintage style clothing. Think 1920s, 1930s style. That is still within vintage time frame, right? Anyway, when it comes to the Hat Man in particular, many people report the same feeling of terror that I experienced, saying that they could feel the evil emanating from him. Others say that they felt uncomfortable, but felt that the being was either neutral or trying to be helpful in some way. This may be due to reports that, for the most part, the Hat Man seems to be content with just standing there, staring at you. There are a lot of other theories about these particular beings, both the ones that are just a shadowy mass and the ones that have a defined shape, and they range from the mundane to the otherworldly. One mundane theory is that our minds conjure up images for us in the dark in an attempt to make sense of the way that the light, even ambient nighttime light, reflects off of different surfaces. It can be triggered or exacerbated by things like sleep deprivation, stress, heightened emotions, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, insomnia, narcolepsy, or antihistamines like Benadryl. It's a survival thing, basically. For children, they say it's due to their imaginations and how they perceive things that don't yet make sense to their young minds. Again, a survival thing. Because what do children do when they're scared or feel threatened? They hide, or hightail it to the closest parent. Another mundane theory is something called sleep paralysis. That's something we'll dig into deeper in another episode because there's a not-so-mundane side to that. But to give you the short version, it's that state between REM sleep and waking when part of your brain has woken up but the rest hasn't. So you're caught between being aware of your surroundings and being unable to move because of a thing called muscle atonia, which happens when you go into REM sleep so that you don't end up acting out your dreams. Fun fact. With this theory, the shadow beings are subconscious reworkings that are tied to your current mental and emotional state. And that's why seeing these invokes feelings of fear, impending doom, or sheer terror. This theory only gives an explanation for a fraction of these shadow being sightings, though, because they only happen when you're in the process of waking up, because your body has to have already gone into that muscle atonia state in order for it to happen. So what about when you're already fully awake? What about the people who see them during daylight hours? Many cultures believe that these beings are shades of the underworld. Some say they're evil entities like demons or some other menacing entity, and they're believed to be an omen of death or something that feeds off of your fear and confusion and distress. Some cultures believe they're spirits of loved ones or just residual energy from someone who frequented the area or lived in the area. This isn't said as much about the Hat Man as it is about other shadow beings or shadow masses. Other theories suggest interdimensional beings that aren't ghosts or demons. Some theories say they're aliens with some kind of cloaking mechanism or ability, and that they're just popping in to observe us. And some people think it's an astral projection situation, which is another thing we'll cover in depth at another time. But basically, that's when you go into a sleep state and can remove your spirit, soul, essence, whatever you want to call it, from your physical body and travel to another time or place. I could see this being one of the reasons some people see shadow people that walk through their bedrooms like they're just passing through, but I'm not really convinced that's the case with the Shadow Man / Hat Man. My thought on that, at least in my case, is who the fuck would astral project every night just to creepily stand there and watch me sleep? In my particular case, I'd say it's more like an interdimensional being or something along those lines that has a purpose for showing up every night. I don't know whether it was just to observe or feed off of my distressed energy, or if it was some kind of guardian type deal. I don't know. I did find an interesting observation that someone made, though, that shortwave radio frequencies seem to reduce the appearance of these beings and can sometimes stop them altogether. The reason I find it so interesting is that I never played my radio after getting into bed at night once I had my own room. However, when I was sharing a room with my sisters, we did have the radio playing every night for background noise. I remember because it was always tuned to 92.9 and always played Delilah. I chatted with my sister after listening to her audio clip, and it seems that they also stopped listening to the radio at night at the same time that I moved bedrooms, which seems to be about the time that they also started seeing this shadowy mass that she talked about. Like I said earlier, there are many different forms of shadow people. We also have the peekers and streakers, as I tend to call them. The peekers are shadow beings that you see out of the corner of your eye at any point while you're awake that seem to kind of peek around a door or a wall or other solid object to look at you. My significant other says he experiences this on occasion in our home, which, by the way, is the same one I grew up in. Especially when he's sitting at the dining room table at about 4 or 5 in the morning. He gets the feeling that something or someone is peeking around the corner at him from the basement stairs, but when he looks, there's no one there. When he sees it out of the corner of his eye, it's a little over 3.5 feet tall, so lately he automatically thinks it's our son, who is roughly the same height at the moment, and is known for trying to sneak his way from the bedroom to the bathroom. But on most occasions, it's not our son. We've been living here for the last 6-ish years, and at first it really creeped him out. The ones I call streakers are the ones that move quickly through your peripherals, but when you turn to look, there doesn't seem to be anything there at all. I call them streakers because to me, they appear to be a streak of shadow. There one moment and then gone the next. Here's my sister's experience with those.
I have seen shadow people that I didn't get any type of feelings from or anxiety or anything like that. And those would be more so in my peripherals. So quickly walking past me, and then they would be gone, right? Whereas the one that was in our bedroom at night would just I would stare at it and it would still stay there. Sometimes it would just randomly disappear or appear. But the ones that I would see during the daytime in my peripherals were always just passerbyers. And those were more solid, more human silhouette shaped figures. Also, don't mind if I'm breathing heavy. I am currently 6 months pregnant, so I feel like my lungs are always and my diaphragm is always being crushed. So that's why I sound out of breath, because I am. So the ones that I would see in my peripherals would be usually during the daytime, and it would be downstairs in our living room or in our kitchen. Those would be whether I'm sitting or walking, and they would just appear almost they would just appear out of nowhere and just walk past me. Literally, it was it's the feeling that you're walking down the street and this random person is just strolling by you, strolling past. No interaction, no eyes are on me or anything like that. Just no care. It almost you're not even there. And these people, these shadow figures, didn't have any distinct features as well either. It was more more of a solid silhouette than just a shape, a translucent shape. Their silhouette had movement as well. So those are actually what I see most common now in my adulthood. I don't see them as much. I'll see a shadow figure at home occasionally. My fiance and I have been living in the house that we're currently living in it'll be 4 years this November. And in the beginning, I saw them a lot. And it was more so the translucent, like shapeless figure. A lot of the times, though, it would be at night in our bedroom doorway that we would keep open so our cats have access to our room, but also like the rest of the house. Or it would be like, because we renovated our house, it would be like when we were renovating. However, those weren't much shadow figures. It was more so the feeling of like somebody was in the room with me, just like watching me. Not to like scare me or interact or anything. It was just like watching and seeing what I was doing, observing. But the shadow figures that I have seen here has been, some are the ones that are just like walking past with the human silhouette, and then some are more so just like the translucent mass that just like stays in one spot, and like if I look at it, it doesn't move, doesn't go anywhere, it's just there. However, the one that I feel like comes every now and then is like the same one, and the feeling that I get, that I sense from it, has a gender, and I feel that it's a man. And when I get that sensation, like that acknowledgement and information, startles me a little bit, because I'm also like, it's the middle of the night, what are you doing here? Why are you just like standing in my bedroom door? However, I've never experienced it to like come closer. And like throughout my life too, when I do see them, I've never thought of talking to them or trying to communicate or anything like that. I don't recall when I was younger having any type of communication from the shadow figures, especially not the ones that are just walking past me. Like the one in the bedroom, I never tried to communicate at all. It was very much so that like a line had been drawn and we can like acknowledge each other, but like that's all. Like you stay in your spot and I'll stay in mine. And I am curious now, if I would have said something to it, I wonder if I would have received a response. But I also see them too, like at work. So I own an aesthetics shop in Virginia, and I have a business partner that I own it with, who is currently on maternity leave and has been the last 3 months. So she's actually coming back to work next week. But since she has been gone, there has been more activity. So for a while, it was just her and I. And then around the time that she had left for maternity leave, we had started room renting to a massage therapist. And she has different hours than I do, right? So a lot of the times I'm at the shop by myself. And in our security cameras, you can see in the shop, we have like 2 front lobbies. So when you walk in initially, it's the front lobby that's got like the products and the desk and all of that. And then you walk into the back lobby, and that's where like our kitchenette, our bathroom, the treatment rooms, inventory room, like that's where all of that is. And like you can see in the security cameras, I will be in the front lobby sitting at the desk, and I'll like look into the back lobby because I'll see somebody like walking, and I'll be completely by myself, no clients, nothing. I work later hours as well too than some of the other businesses that share the building with us. So they typically leave at like between like 4 and 5 o'clock, and a lot of the times I'm there until like 6, 7, sometimes even 8 o'clock at night. But this happens like throughout the day, regardless if anybody else is in the building with me. And it mainly happens when I'm not taking clients or like in between clients. And so like you'll see me like look on the security cameras. I'll be like walking from one room to the other, and I'll just like stop and turn my head and look or I'll like look into the front lobby or look into the back lobby because I'm seeing those more solid human figure silhouettes, like human shadow silhouettes just walking. And I get the same sensation, like as if they're just walking past, like we're just strangers on the street. There's no interaction, nothing, no feeling that I get. Sometimes I do get a feeling like I'm not by myself, even though logically I know that I am. But those are the ones that I mainly see like out in public.
So I tend to see the peekers and the streakers on a daily basis, usually multiple times a day. At home, I mainly see the streakers go past the 2 dining room windows that look out onto the driveway. I'm sorry. Out of context and out loud, that just sounds weird. Maybe I should call them shadow streakers? Anyway, when I'm in the kitchen cooking or cleaning, the peekers seem to look through the window in the kitchen door, which always makes me go over to see if someone's on our doorstep. When I'm upstairs working on something in the loft-like area, I mean, it's probably not what it's called, but it's an open area where you can immediately see into as you get to the top of the stairs. There's no wall separating the stairwell and the room, but it does look like there was once a railing there. Anyway, I see them peek up over the floor in that area, in my peripherals, and most of the time I end up expecting to see one of the kids or my significant other. But without the telltale creaks on the stairs, nobody's ever there. I've also seen the peekers while I'm in our TV room, and it seems as if they peek in at me around the doorframe from the dining room. And that's just in our home. I see the shadow streakers. Hopefully that sounds better. I see them when I'm out and about. Sometimes I'll see them at work or when I'm grocery shopping. If I'm outside our home doing yard work or I'm in the garden, I'll see them. Usually when I'm outside of our home, I tend to see them by the tree line where our yard meets the wooded area behind our house. When it comes to these shadow beings, there isn't any feeling of dread or terror. It feels more like curiosity if it's a peeker. And with the shadow streakers, it's like they're just passing through on their way to somewhere else. The peekers, I think, tend to be the ones that inadvertently manifest a little bit and are generally harmless. Probably spirits of loved ones or just a curious interdimensional being. The shadow streakers seem like they're spirits or interdimensional beings or what have you that are just passing through, not seeming to realize that they've manifested vaguely and briefly as they pass. They only appear as a quick flash of shadow in the peripherals without seeming to have any intentions of scaring, intimidating, or even observing anyone.
So like I said earlier, if you have a story to share with me, send it on over to thisaveragewitch@gmail.com for it to be shared during spooky season. And if you'd be so kind, share, give me a lovely rating where possible, leave a comment, give me a shiny review. All of that helps in more ways than you can imagine. To keep yourself in the circle, follow, subscribe, sign up to all of the places where you can find me. On Facebook, This Average Witch. On Instagram, @ThisAverageWitch. On Blue Sky, @thisaveragewitch.bsky.social. On YouTube, @ThisAverageWitch. On Substack, @ThisAverageWitch. And of course, if you want to email me about anything else, thisaveragewitch@gmail.com. Get a little wilder and a little witchier each week with me as we talk about all things witchy, supernatural, spooky, and spiritual. Let's awaken our magic, shall we? Much love to you all, and I'll catch you next week.
There are 2 versions of my morning. The old one, waking up stiff, negotiating with my own back just to stand. And this one, rising before my alarm, ready to go. The difference? I found Airweave, the Japanese futon reimagined. Extra firm support that honors tradition but answers to science. Now my mornings feel different, like I'm connected to something that understands my body and lets me customize its features.
Airweave, ancient wisdom meets modern proof. Airweave's air fiber mattress is not plush. It is perfected. It offers a unique, firm support that aligns your body and cradles you in a deep, restorative sleep. Born from Japanese innovation, the air fiber technology provides the firm, even support your body has been craving. Airweave, a Japanese traditional sleep system re-engineered with the latest technology. Discover truly supportive sleep at airweave.com.